Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nandi, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a 30-minute batch edit of a vow renewal session / style shoot that I photographed last week. Before we get started, I would love it if you guys could go ahead and click the subscribe button down below and turn on that notifications bell so that way you get notified anytime I upload a new video. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so here we have all of our images here. I went ahead and I did the grit work before starting this, so I've already culled through all the images, but to give you guys kind of a number of how many images I did upload, I uploaded about maybe 500 to 600 images, and I culled through and I pulled out about 100. This is normal for me for any wedding or event that I do. I'm all about quality over quantity. It's more important to deliver images, fewer images that your clients will love rather than a bunch of images that they'll probably pick out just a few just to look at over the years and never really truly get to look at all of them. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to find one image that I think represents everything as a whole, and I'm going to take that one image and we're going to base our preset and our settings, everything off of that one image. So let's go through and let's find an image. As you can see, a lot of these are taken at different exposures. I was just testing it out. I've never photographed up in the mountains, but it was absolutely beautiful. So I tried to catch some of the scenery in the background as well as getting the actual details of the shot like this one. So I'm going to start with this cake shot. It's nice, it's evenly lit. You can see all the details, and we can work from here, figure out what our settings are going to be, and figure out a good preset to apply to this image that can go across the entire board. So let's go to develop. The first thing I like to do, if you guys notice with this crop, it looks a little bit slimmer than it normally would. That is because I shot it in live view. So I'm going to go ahead and click on original crop, click done. Now we're back to what it should actually look like. So the first thing that I like to do when doing batch editing is I go ahead, remove the chromatic aberration if there's any, and enable profile corrections. This entire shoot was shot on my Canon 5D Mark IV and the 24 to 70 millimeter, the 2.8 version, and it's the second version. So once we do our lens correction settings, we're done with that. I'm not going to change anything else. This does need some vertical aligning, but I will touch that last. I don't want to apply that to every image. We're just going to do the first steps like color correction, temperature, and all that other good stuff. So the first thing I notice about this, it does look a little bit blue. I want a warmer tone, and as you can see within the colors of the stationery or the invitation, the invites, it's a much moodier color palette, so we're going to try and edit it in that sense as well today. Try and keep that in mind when editing. So back to our image. First thing I want to do is adjust the color temperature. When we were shooting, this was in daylight, but keeping in mind we were also in a covered area, so it's kind of like mixed color temperatures. I usually start from daylight, and if that's not warm enough, it did kind of up the warmness a little bit. You can always try going to shade, and that's a little too orange. So I think we'll probably go with cloudy. That's a good little kind of in the middle. So now that I've color corrected everything, it looks good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start adjusting the highlights here, because these are a little bit blown out, and I do want to see the trees in the background, the mountains, and make sure that those are visible. So I'm going to drag my slider down, and now those look much better. And since I did take away so much of the highlights, I'm going to compensate by bringing up our whites. And just a little bit, like not too much. You don't want to blow out everything else. We do have some really beautiful blacks that I want to make sure that we preserve. So we may have to do some filters here, some graduated filters to apply some of these corrections, just so that it doesn't correct over the entire image. I'm going to up my shadows just a tad, and that already looks so much better. So I will show you guys the before and after. Well, actually the basic panel doesn't have one. Never mind, I will not show you the before and after. Here, we'll do the before and after. So here's the before image, here's after, with just what little corrections we've done. It's a lot warmer. We've preserved the blacks. Still definitely want to give it a little bit more of a moodier feel, so we're going to go into the curves panel here. And I am going to go to our, I think we'll keep it RGB. I don't want to go into any kind of specific channels right now. So I'm going to make 2 points on our curve. Here within the mid-tone ranges, and here within the shadows and the blacks. So here I'm going to pull down our blacks to give our curve a little bit more of a S curve. It's not going to be a super sharp S curve, because then when you do that it becomes a little too contrasty. I want it to have some contrast, but not a lot. We definitely want to make sure that it still looks like it's, you know, like it's related to a wedding. So I pull down the S curve just a little bit. I'm going to raise our midtones just a hair more, not too much, because as you can see, the highlights up here still getting a little blown out, and I'll go back up to the basics panels in just a little bit and try and fix that. But I actually like this. This is much better than it was before. I love that the colors pop. You've got a lot more moodier tones down here. Your blacks are preserved. Your shadows look great. I love this more than the before image itself. So now that the S curve is done, I'm going to come back up here to our highlights. I'm going to lower them just a little bit more, because keeping in mind some of the other images that we're going to edit have a lot more of the background showing. So we want to make sure that in those images they're going to be preserved as well. So I'm going to 2-star this. And what a 2-star means for me when I'm doing a batch edit, it just means that this is perfect the way that it is. I might come back and make minimal adjustments. Maybe I might crop it a little bit differently. Maybe I might, you know, change the vertical alignment, horizontal, whatever. But for right now, this is our example image. So I'm going to, well, 2 fingers if you're on a Mac, basically left click, and I'm going to set this as the reference photo. So that way I can click on this down here. It says RA and it's reference, and then the A is basically active. So whatever photo you're currently editing, you can make sure that they line up and that they look cohesive. So now that this is set, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start at the beginning of all of our photos. And I'm going to go through and I'm just going to make sure that everything that was shot in live view mode is cropped appropriately. Sometimes it's a lot easier to just go through and you'd be like, oh, everything's fine, and you'll forget that some of these were shot in live view, and then you'll totally forget to uncrop them. And then you export it and you realize you're like, wait, I didn't take the photo like that, and you have to go back and fix everything. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to undo all of these live view modes. I hate having to do this in post-processing, but I'm glad I'm able to shoot like this, of course, when I'm actually out on location, especially if I don't have a step stool or a ladder, because I'm like 6'1", I never really need one. So this is always a lot easier for me to shoot this in live view so that I'm able to get the shot that I want, and you know, whether I have to shoot low or shoot high or whatever, or shoot in a corner, because sometimes I have to do that too. It's really weird. It just makes it a lot easier on me. So this is a little bit of a hassle during post, but it's totally worth it to get the shot that you want. So I'm going to speed through this, and then once I'm done, we'll go back and we'll start editing again. Alright guys, so now we are back. We're going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to start applying the settings from the reference photo, and we're going to paste them on a couple of images just to make sure that they look good, and if they do, then we're going to apply them to all of them, and we're going to sync up the settings. So let me go back to that first image that we've already edited. Here it is, just for you guys to go ahead and see it again. I'm going to put this in full screen. So this is the overall tone. This is the colors that we're going to go for. They're nice, they're crisp, they're clean, they're fresh, but they have a little bit of that moody edge that we're really trying to implement in this shoot. So I'm going to right click, and for the settings, I'm going to go to copy settings. And the ones that are checked off are obviously the ones that we've actually applied to this particular photo. So we're going to go ahead and say copy. We'll go back to the first image, and I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to say paste settings, and then it should paste the settings from that image to this one. So as you can see, the settings from this photo compared to the last one are different. So we're going to go ahead and click RA, and we're going to apply. I'm going to take that information off. So as you can see, it is darker, it is moodier, but it's not as bright in terms of the flowers and the sign. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to raise the exposure just a bit. And then we're going to tweak a bit of the image just a bit, just to make sure that it applies nicely and everything looks cohesive. So I can see the mountains in the backdrop. Obviously, when I took this photo, I was trying to expose a little bit more for the foreground and a little bit more for the background, when I really should have just exposed for the foreground. So that way I could have gotten everything that I wanted versus everything in the background that I don't necessarily need in this shot. So I'm going to lower my highlights all the way down, so that way we get a little bit more of the background. And we're going to raise our shadows just a bit. This is a lot better than what it was at first. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to 2-star, but first I have to go back to this. I'm good with this here for now. We're going to move on to the next shot. We're going to do the same thing. As you can see, the settings on this photo are a lot different than the last one and compared to the cake. So an important thing to remember when you are batch editing is that if you did not take all of your photos with the exact same setting, batch editing is going to be a lot harder. It's not going to be as quick. It's going to take you a little bit more time. So if you intend to batch edit, try and take, even if not the entire day, you can't do like all your shots at the same settings. Believe me, I've tried. Try and do them in sections. So that way when you apply them, you know what you need to change when going from section to section to section. Like maybe one section, you need to have your shadows adjusted, or maybe you need to, reduce your highlights here a little bit more, or whatever have you. It just makes it a lot easier. It makes it so much quicker to edit, and you can get your gallery sent out to your clients or whoever you're delivering them to, and that will make them so much happier, and they will be more likely to refer you. So that means more money. All right, so this image is good. It's 2-star. We'll come back to it later. We're going to choose this next image here. As y'all can see, I definitely expose a little bit more for the background here to get the mountains. But we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead, we're going to go to settings, we're going to paste our settings one more time. It's going to go ahead, throw those settings there. I love the background on this shot. It's gorgeous. That's why I exposed for it this way. So here, obviously, we cannot see anything in the foreground. So we're going to up our shadows. And we'll continue to up them until we can make sure we can see everything. In this case, I think 80 looks perfect. You can see the ceremony setup. You can see the background. That's what I was aiming for, and it's totally fine that I had to do that one extra step to make sure that I got the shot that I wanted. I'm going to go ahead to start. We'll come back to it later. Now that I'm happy, making sure that the settings that I copied and I pasted from that first original image will apply to these photos, we're going to go ahead and apply them across the board. And then from there, we're going to go in and make our adjustments. So in our library, we'll click all of them, select shift, and then we're going to click sync settings down here. These are all the settings that we originally copied and pasted from the first photo. So what I want to do, actually, hold on y'all, made a mistake. Because I want to sync the settings, I don't want to click sync settings here, at least not quite yet, because none of these images have any of the settings from the first one here. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to develop settings, and I'm going to say paste settings. The sync settings button, trust me, if you had done that with none of your images having that original, like those settings that you had copied and pasted from that first photo, it would have just done nothing at all. And you would have been like, what happened to my photos? And yeah, I've done that a couple times, y'all. All right, so now that it's copying those settings across the board, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start checking each and every individual photo just to make sure that I'm happy with it. If I'm not, for whatever reason, we'll change what minimal we can at that time. Like this, I actually preferred it when it was the daylight temperature versus the cloudy temperature. I think cloudy is a little too orange, as you can see. And shade is definitely going to be a lot oranger. And if you want something that's a little bit warmer, something a little bit more in between, I would just suggest bringing your slider up until you have a little bit happy with. It doesn't have to be a lot. This is actually 7,000. I think cloudy is just below that. So cloudy could work in this sense. Let me make sure I'm clicking on one photo and not all of them. And here's the next photo. You guys might be wondering why I have two photos that look very similar. I love them both, and one of them is just slightly framed differently, which means that the focus, the focal point is just a little bit different on the other one. So never mind me. Now for this invitation suite, loved it. So gorgeous. Love this shot. There's nothing I'm going to change about it. I might actually crop it a little bit differently, but like I said, we'll come back, we'll do all the cropping at the end. That takes no time at all. Still trying to decide which one I like. Alright, so this is a 2. We're good. 2. 2. As long as you don't see anything that requires any, adjusting as far as the actual image, then we're going to move on. We're going to move forward. And I'm just going to quickly rotate this because, that just bothers my soul. Hold on, let me go back. That's a 2. Yes, you're a 2, 2. Ha, 2, 2. All right. Here's another image, looking just to make sure that I like everything, that the highlights aren't too blown out. Are they? If I lower them, if I raise them, does it really make that much of a difference? No, so I'm going to raise them back up to around 55 because I think that looks much better. That's a 2. We're going to move forward. The bouquet, 2. This is the original cake shot. That's already a 2. Here's another cake shot. like I said, minimal adjustments, just brought down the highlights to 2. We're going to keep going. Beautiful cake shot, 2. Another cake shot. I think this one looks good too. It looks very similar to the first one. And actually, we'll just bring up the first one here. Here's our reference photo. Here's this photo. Think it looks great. It's a 2. You're good to go. This one just needs cropping and realignment, 2. Cropping and realignment, 2. And I'll speed through this for y'all so you don't have to sit here and watch this. Okay, so I'm finished with the last image and we're going to go back to this very first image here, and I'm going to finish off everything with cropping and making some alignment adjustments to a few photos here and there. This first one definitely needs it to get this potted plant out of the way. But then that's pretty much it. After I'm done with this, I will be done editing this entire gallery. It's about 100 plus photos, and this is why I love adding this to my workflow, because I just finished editing everything. I'm happy with the edits, and I finished it in around 30 minutes, about 32 minutes. So I did really good, and this is something that you all can add into your workflow editing as well. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and go ahead and click that subscribe button as well as the notifications bell, because guess who might be adding a new video next week? I don't know, it might be me, but you guys will have to subscribe in order to find out. Again, thank you guys so much. I'm Nandi, and I will see you all next time.